Hello, you guys. I'm gonna get this started because I'm gonna save this. It's gonna be posted to my IGTV as well as my YouTube. I'm gonna start doing my podcast in a live stream capacity. I want to kind of show my personality a little bit more. I've definitely been super like reporter-esque and like super sanitized and animated for most of these podcast episodes, but I want to try to, give more of me to them. I tried to sum up this episode a little bit shorter just because the episodes have been increasingly getting longer as I, move on with this. I'm not upset about it, and now me doing it this way, it'll probably be even longer because I'll probably give more of my 2 cents when it comes to these kind of things. But I'm very excited to bring it to you. Hello. I'm just going to get straight into it. The first thing that I always start out with when it comes to my podcast is new music. And I always preface it by saying, Spotify specifically, there are about 60,000 new songs that are uploaded every single day. So it's very hard for me to get through like every single new release throughout this week, but I talk about the ones that have been, most heavily publicized, that are like very easy for me to find out about. But if you are someone who wants me to, promote your release and talk about it in this section of the podcast, definitely feel free to contact me personally, and I have no problem, talking about you. So, as I said, we'll start with new music. So, Doja Cat officially released the visual for Get Into It. Yeah. Ella Mai released DFMU. I have my notes here if I'm looking down. That's why. Nuke released Color Money. Floyd Fuji released Inside. We have Jasmine Sullivan unveiling the track list for her upcoming release Hotels, which is going to be a deluxe album. John Vinyl released Don't Care. Queen Naija and Big Sean released a song called Hate Our Love. We have Soraya with a song called POV. Ravina and Vince Staples releasing Secret. And then Raven Lenae and Steve Lacy releasing Skin Tight. I love those two together. They did a lot of stuff on Raven's, I believe, her debut album, actually. Steve Lacy was on a lot of that, and I absolutely love them together. So moving on, I'm going to be talking about like my personal likes and personal things that I wanted to bring up within this podcast episode. So first of all, Brandon Silverstein, who is an amazing artist manager, he manages Normani along with a couple other folks. He's one of like the youngest artist managers to get to the height that he is, like managing real superstars. He's only 30 years old, and he's really done a lot for himself. And he did an interview where he made this statement that I have great relationships with both labels, saying that he loves utilizing the resources that they're able to give to him, but we don't want to be reliant on them. He goes on to say, that's why I built a business like this. He has his own management firm that can independently service our talent as soon as possible, as the highest level as possible. I think this brings up a great conversation, as he's saying, about labels and the artists that they work for, and, those things in tandem. Labels are great for resources. They're a great way to move up and grow in your career, but it's super important to kind of, as he's saying, not be dependent on them. You should be able to utilize the label to get to where you want to be and then move forward without them if necessary, kind of thing. Super important, just independence in general and not being reliant on anyone in any capacity is super important. But definitely when it comes down to your career and your business, I think that's a great thing to keep in mind. Another thing is that Nicki Minaj is going to be apparently announcing a new alter ego on her upcoming album, which I'm super excited to see what that looks like. She definitely has such a talent with formulating personas, and I think we've seen that because she has a background in acting and things like that. But it plays so well into her brand and what she can do, and I'm just super excited to see what this new character is. Next up, we have an animation studio teaming up with Cedella Marley to develop a show based on her recently published children's book. And this will be a story inspired by growing up with Bob Marley himself, as a father and someone who celebrates music, love, and family. So I love that. Something that I talk about just a lot in general to any of my clients and any of the people that I touch in this industry is TikTok. More and more we're seeing that TikTok is a huge vehicle for stardom, and it's a huge vehicle for A&Rs. A&Rs are using TikTok to scout their new talent, and in a really, really big way. And I think a great example of that, first of all, we have Dom Valley, who he is the Ben Hima guy. He's done great with marketing himself on TikTok in a various amount of ways. Every single thing that has been said about him, every sentiment that people have about his brand, he has exploited it to his best ability and made content out of it, which I think is super smart. And another great example of that is Pink Pantheress. Miss Girl released the most low energy, was filming clips of her little eyeballs zooming in with her great music, and is now basically a superstar over in the UK, and it is literally all because of the power of TikTok. So I think I just really want to reiterate to anyone who's watching this, who's an independent artist, like, stop shying away from it, please. I understand there's a lot of different sentiments around it. There's a lot of different feelings about the app in general, and personal things that are holding people back, whatever that may be. But in my perspective, you just have to start. Start putting out content. It will, like anything, it's going to get refined over time. The first thing that you do in any capacity is not going to be the best. But it's all a learning experience, and it's all additive to what, the goal is, which is to reach more people and to reach the right people. So with that being said, the last thing on my little favorite, my likes notes, is that Saba made a statement that rap can be a classist genre, and that he really wants it to be the opposite, and he really wants to change that. That's something that I just resonate so deeply with, especially because of the origins of the music in general, the origins of the genre. I'm not trying to overstep or anything like that, but rap and hip hop in general comes from the nitty gritty of New York City, where people didn't have shit, bro, and the music was a way to not only attempt to get out of that, but also as an outlet for emotions and energy and all these things. And for it to have become something that is so heavily based on how much you have, whether that be the come up or whatever it is, in general, we all got to stop looking at what people have and think about what they can bring to the table and the talent that they bring, not, the amount of diamonds that they have and the amount of racks that they can blow. That's really all I'm going to say about that. But yeah, moving on, we're going to talk about some drama and controversy, which is usually my favorite thing to talk about. So we'll get straight into it. A lot of artists have been following in Neil Young's footsteps of taking their music off of Spotify for various reasons, but a lot of them are essentially backing behind Neil and saying, take Joe Rogan off of the platform. There's a lot to say about that. My personal thing with that overall is that the music industry, whether that be consumers, whether that be labels, whether that be artists, we need to stop giving Spotify so much power. They essentially have the largest market share of streaming and therefore of music in general. It's slowly dwindling. We've had some big jumps recently because of the controversy that's happening. But overall, we all see Spotify as the music company, but in reality, Spotify is the audio company and is a company. They don't give a crap about artists. They don't care about listeners. They care that you're using their subscription plan. That's what they give a fuck about. And I think that this situation with Joe Rogan and Neil Young has really shown that to everyone, that like Spotify is not for music. That's what they have, been able to amass their entirety of their wealth upon and their market share on. But that's not really what, in their perspective and in reality, like what their company is. Their company is a company for audio, whether that be audio books or podcasts or short tidbits of things and whatnot. And music is a form of audio, and that's why it's been, capitalized so much upon, besides the fact that it is what most people use Spotify for. But I really won't say too much about that other than that. Moving on. We have the game slamming Interscope for running a modern day slave trade, which I think brings up a huge conversation about the way that labels in general treat artists, which is something that a lot of us have been screaming to the top of our lungs about for many years. And it's just another person saying it, essentially. Now, will this announcement or this statement make any change? I don't know. I think the main thing that will make change, which is something that is talked about in the circles that I'm in, is using leverage with these companies, going into the deals and asking them for what you want and not taking anything that you don't deserve, and not in the sense of like taking too much that you don't deserve, but taking shit that is shit that you don't deserve. And get some lawyers in y'all's rooms, bro. Please, if you ever go into a conversation with a company, specifically our record label, please have a lawyer in the room. Please. And read the fucking contract, okay? Please. Moving on. We have a Christian hip-hop artist called Gawi, who was recently dropped by his record label, Reach Records, after he had some allegations of some unsolicited DPs sent out. I don't know what he's got going on, but it didn't help him in his career, especially as a Christian artist, man. Come on. I don't know the truth, but this is what has amounted from it, alright? India Arie is one of the folks who has followed suit of Neil Young in taking her catalog off of Spotify. I'm extremely sad because I do personally use Spotify after all of that shit that I just talked about it. But, yeah, she took her music off. I'm personally sad about it. The more that I read into the situation in general, India, she didn't really take her music off because of, like, the COVID situation with Joe Rogan. She took her music off because of the way that Joe Rogan has spoken about race. And in my opinion, Joe's a weirdo. You can have whatever opinion you want. But that is why India herself took her music off of Spotify. Moving on. We have more about Spotify, man. I hate talking about these motherfuckers because they're just... Anyways. 19% of Spotify users who have canceled their plan in this past month have directly attributed it to the fact that Joe Rogan is still on the bitch. This story is not over. There's going to be plenty of more people who take their music off of the platform. There are going to be plenty more people who stop their subscriptions. There are going to be more announcements and more statements given by Spotify, probably a couple statements by Joe Rogan. This is not over. It may take a while to come to fruition of whatever the solution is going to be. But at the same time, it may not. It may just end the way that it is. But definitely in terms of things coming out, this is definitely not the end. We've been going through this for about a week, and I don't personally see any signs of that stopping. so next we got industry updates. I always have a lot of industry updates to give to you guys. Hopefully I can get through them relatively quickly. First up, we have a year-end report from the music business magazine Billboard, who I'm sure we all know about. In 2021 was a year in music that fans in the U.S. Turned to nostalgic favorites. Or actually, no, I'm lying. This is in Canada. Fans have turned back to nostalgic favorites, continuing a trend that started in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic. And I don't think this is about Canada, but I don't think that this has only happened in Canada. In general, in marketing, you kind of learn that nostalgia is one of the biggest things that is an emotional connector for people. Something that is good to capitalize off of. And in that sense, it definitely makes sense that nostalgic music is coming back. I don't think it ever left, but just something to think about. The next thing we'll talk about is that Warner Chappell has increased its revenue through media placements, which is also always makes sense. Licensing and media is always something that brings in a lot of money. The question that I always ask about this is that the artists of the music that you're licensing for Warner or for UMG or any of these big labels, what's the cut that the artist gets? I want to know because y'all be making these $10,000, $100,000 deals with these companies, and I want to know what the check to the artist looks like, because I don't think it's fair. Talked a little bit about this in the podcast episode that I did, I believe 2 weeks ago. Moving on, we have Mike Alexander being appointed the general manager of Island Records. Quick round of applause for him. Good stuff. We have a couple other new job, not openings, but new job placements to talk about later on. An Indian film and music company called Saragama is planning a major investment in the latter part of its business, aka the music part of its business. And they have told analysts that it is creating a fund of what will translate over to $100 million to invest in music. That's a lot of money. I also want to add in just real quick, since we've been talking about Joe Rogan and Spotify. The reason that Spotify isn't going to take down Joe Rogan's shit is because they paid him $100 million to license it. They're not taking his shit down. $100 million is what this company is investing into their entire music department. And they gave that amount of money to one motherfucker. Okay, so I just had to add that in. And this is why I'm doing this live now, because I feel like it gives more of me, than I do when I'm just, like, recording the shit on fucking GarageBand and, like, splicing it together and editing shit out and blah, blah, blah. Like, it feels so sanitized, and that's why I wanted to do the podcast this way moving forward, just because I feel like it's interesting. Y'all can scroll through if you don't like it. This will be saved to my IGTV. You don't have to watch the whole thing. I hope you do, but I'm all over the place, and that's the reality. So, like, I hope you guys can fucking follow along. Lord have mercy. All right, we have Remy Ma sharing the first look into her women-only rap league. Hell no. The poor connection is going to anger me. Anyways, Remy Ma has shared the first look at her women-only rap battle league, which I'm fucking hyped for. That's gonna be amazing. I'm excited to see either who she brings in from the current industry girlies, and who she decides to shine a light on. But this group is gonna be called Chrome 23. Very cool. Very excited for that. Alright, as a part of its first environmental social governance report, Warner Music Group has announced on Tuesday of this week that it will waive unrecoupable debts for heritage artists following a move that Sony made last year. And a couple hours after the news about Warner doing this, UMG also decided to do the same thing. So to break that down a little bit, a heritage artist is someone who essentially signed to a label in like the 30s, 40s, 50s, these kind of eras. And a lot of these folks signed deals that were less than good, and they are still, however many decades later, they are still trying to pay back these advances and these recoupable funds to the record label, meaning that all of the royalty money that has come in for these several decades, they have not seen a penny from. Not one penny, because they're still trying to pay back these labels for the recoupable expenses, the advances, all these things. So what this is doing, the waiving of these unrecoupable things, is these artists are actually going to get paid now. Some of them are dead, some of them, so it'll go straight to their estate and their families and things like that. But these artists will actually get paid now after 20, 30, 40 years, 60 years being in the industry and not getting jack shit for their creations. So this is definitely a beautiful thing, something that is super important and is really good news in my opinion. Moving on, we have a new biography about Jay Dilla that is apparently already released. I definitely have to go check it out. It is a book, not a movie, but a new biography book about Jay Dilla that should be a really good read. We have Kanye West making a statement about NFTs, saying, stop asking him to do the shit. He wants to create shit in the real world for real people, so on and so forth. I definitely understand the sentiment. To touch on NFTs a little bit, I think I've talked about this before, not on here, but in general, they need more structure, and it needs more before it becomes the thing that it's supposed to be. They're definitely... It's on the road to that, but there's not enough there yet for it to be, like I said, what it needs to be. There's a lot of opportunity there. It's great ideas all around. But it's too young. It's too young. That's what I'll say. We have a new report from Statistics Canada that found that industry revenues declined by a record $783 million in 2 years. Think about that. $783 million in 2 years. And this has largely been attributed to COVID. If you're in the industry, you kind of know that touring is how you make money. Especially in the age of streaming. Streaming does not pay anybody's bills unless you're literally like Lil Nas X and you have hundreds of millions of streams on your songs. You have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of monthly listeners. If you don't have those kind of numbers, it's extremely difficult to make money off of your actual music. This is something that we're going to touch on a little bit in my workshops in terms of the music really isn't the product anymore. And it hasn't... I won't get into that, but you as an artist are the product, and there are several different branches of you of things that you can make money off of, and one of those things is music, but honestly, it's probably the thing that you'll make the least money on. Touring is the cash cow, and with COVID-19, live music it's taken a tumble. Things are getting back to where it's supposed to be, but even then we're seeing as low as or as high as 50% no-shows in terms of ticket sales. So the money that they've already, in those terms, the money has already been gotten. But no artist likes to see that they have even 100 ticket sales and only 50 folks show up. That's just not fun. Anyways, we have Josh Remsburg joining Warner Records as the Senior Vice President of Commercial Revenue. So once again, quick round of applause for him. We have Audio Up bringing a pair of music industry executives on board as it looks to build its content portfolio beyond just podcasts, because that's one of the main things that they focus on. PJ Bloom has been named the co-president of music, and Kristen Kaufman has been brought on as the company's EVP of brand strategy and partnerships. Next up, we have, starting February 2nd, so just a couple days ago, fans and collectors will be able to purchase vintage and rare content merchandise from Miss Janet Jackson from her time from 1933 to 1935. So we're talking, and even after that, we're actually talking about stuff with Velvet Rope, All For You, Rock With You, and the coinciding tours. And all of the proceeds that she gets from this, speaking of, because I didn't mention it, all of the stuff will be housed on The Real Real. But all of the profits that she gets from this will be donated to a nonprofit organization called Girls Leadership that teaches girls to exercise the power of their voice through programs grounded in social emotional learning. Beautiful. And with that being said, The Real Real will also be donating $10,000 to that organization, kind of as a package deal of what they're doing with Miss Janet Jackson. Next up, we have the Artist Rights Alliance, which is an artist-run nonprofit organization working to advance songwriters and musicians in the economy, has recently named the former Viacom Vice President Stacey Dansky as their current executive director. Once again, always try to give a little round of applause for these accomplishments in the industry. Utopia acquires Centric Music Group, and they are launching a new royalty management service unit. Very cool, very interesting. And then we have Maria Amato becoming the first woman to be elected as chair of Worldwide Independent Network, which is a worldwide independent network. Just to touch on it, women are far and few to come by in this industry, especially in C-suite leadership roles, and just in general. Men run this fucking industry. Not only do they run it, but they are the industry, especially talking about urban music in general, specifically rap. It's men all around, men on every goddamn level. So I always love to see women prevailing and doing well and getting what they deserve, bro, because women haven't not been in the industry for all this time. We just haven't been afforded the same opportunities as our male counterparts to excel and get those checks, because that's really what it's about. Those C-suite levels come with a big check attached to them. So yeah, I love to see it. We're gonna move on to some artist accomplishments. I'm sure that this is probably gonna make some of you guys hate me. Some of you guys really fuck with me. I don't know. I'm really just testing the waters and seeing how this is going. Anyways, moving on to some artist accomplishments. Missy Elliott has been honored in her Sisters in Hip Hop as she becomes the first female rapper to earn 6 consecutive RIAA certified platinum albums. And if I do say so myself, Missy 100% deserves that. She is a true cultural icon in every sense of that statement. And yeah, she deserves that 100%. We have Ari Lennox's Pressure reaching #1 on the Billboard radio charts, and we'll talk about some other #1 R&B Billboard radio charts. Just it changes, okay? We have Rita Ora inking a deal with BMG, and finally we have NBA YoungBoy and his song Colors continuing the #1 streak that he has across his discography on the hip hop and R&B album charts. We're going to talk about some live music stuff next. So, I feel like I talk about Kanye a lot in general in these podcasts because the man is always in the news. But Kanye had a planned performance in Australia, but it is currently on hold right now until if he decides to get the COVID-19 vaccination. I'm sure you guys know Australia is pretty strict about those things, and he probably will not be allowed in the country unless he goes through the proper channels, if that does happen, so that, yeah. Next, we have Aerosmith canceling their European tour that was previously postponed twice, all because of COVID, as per usual. And finally, we have Bro MC, which is an indigenous rap group, set to perform in Rock in Rio for their 2022 installation. Next up, we have some acquisitions, partnerships, and investments. We already talked about this, so I'm not even going to brush over it. We have Quincy Jones-backed NFT platform OneOf striking a partnership with Warner Music Group. So, shit with NFTs and music and Web 3.0 and cryptocurrency and all these things are just continuing to grow and grow and grow. So, it's definitely something that you want to make sure that you become well-versed on, but as I kind of said before, I'm not super hype into jumping straight on the train yet. I think it's important to be knowledgeable about things and learn about them, especially before you jump on the damn train. But the industry is definitely moving towards making NFTs a huge thing. Just in general with Web 3.0, there's going to be a lot of changes in the industry with these things regarding merch in these spaces, regarding shows in these spaces, regarding like studios in these fucking spaces, like all these different things, and NFTs come along with them. So I definitely understand why the industry is moving towards these things, and once again, just to reiterate, it's important to keep up with what's going on and it can be a lot, but try to understand what's going on in these spaces. And finally, also about fucking NFTs, we have John Legend co-founding a new NFT platform called Our Song, and he's co-founding this along with Kevin Lin, who is the co-founder of Twitch, Matt Chang, who is the founder of Cherubic Ventures, which is a venture capital company, I'm assuming. And then we have Chris Lin, the CEO of Taiwan-headquartered music streaming service called KKBox. Once again, it's important to keep up on the crypto bros and the NFT industry when it comes to music because they're merging very quickly. Next up, we're going to be talking about some legal stuff, which is going to essentially close out. I always talk about recent deaths as well, which is how I really close things out, but this is the second to last thing. So with legal stuff, Lord have mercy. The debate over whether radio should pay royalties for on-air music will get an airing in Washington this week, as a hearing is being held on the latest legislative proposal about these things. The message from broadcasters will be simple. They're saying that essentially the music industry has walked away for efforts to have these things negotiated, and shit has been on the table for 4 years apparently. Well, we'll see. We will see. That doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me at all. But hopefully with this hearing and with the legislation that is being talked about, we can see some things move forward. I hope so. That's what it's all about and everything, moving forward. And I'm going to try to move forward right now. Music piracy has plummeted in the last 5 years, specifically from the onset of streaming. People don't really feel a need to pirate music, but recently it's been slowly growing again, which we could have a whole conversation about piracy and how y'all feel about it. Let me know in the comments, because as I said, this will be posted for you to see. But yeah, definitely an interesting conversation that I'm not going to touch on too much right now because it's a huge conversation that like deserves its own live or whatever. All right. Next thing and final thing regarding legal news is that attorneys for the RIAA sent a letter on Friday to the NFT scam site HitPiece, as well as its founders, demanding that they stop infringing activity and account for the NFTs and artwork auctioned off as well as any revenue collected. And on a similar note, I talked about this a little bit in the last podcast episode. Lil Yachty is in a legal battle with an NFT platform and an NFT group as a whole. And these people are not backing down, man. They're definitely intellectual property revolutionaries. They don't give a shit, fuck, damn, anything about intellectual property and the laws that come along with them. They are pushing back as hard as possible against any of these lawsuits, because there's definitely shit coming out. Because to touch more on, like, why I personally am not jumping into NFTs, way too easy to carbon copy and to put out on your own and for someone to capitalize off of your art. There is not the structure in place yet for it to be really touched upon, and that's why these court cases are coming out, and that's why they are so comfortable lawyering up instead of just coming to a settlement and saying, you know what, yeah, I took Lil Yachty's face and I put it on an NFT, sold it for $100,000, and he didn't see a penny of it. They're comfortable with that because the structure is not there, and it's something that needs to be there. To close this all out, as I usually do in my podcast, I talk about recent deaths in the industry. And just to preface this, always I offer my condolences to everyone. I hope everyone has a, steady, easy grieving process. Death is never fun. But I think it's super important to honor these folks when I'm having these conversations in general. So thankfully we only have 3 today. Sometimes it's longer. We have Hargis Pig Robbins, who was a Hall of Fame music row pianist. And he played for some folks like Bob Dylan, Dolly Parton, Kenny Rogers, and Miss Shania Twain. So definitely put in a lot of work in the industry. Had to be extremely talented in order to play for all of those people. And it's unfortunate that he passed. I feel so weird talking about these things. Glenn Wheatley, Australian music producer who managed John Farnham, Delta Goodrem, and the Little River Band. He also passed away. And then finally we have a 22-year-old man, and this is the shit that gets me, and I knew I was going to make this statement when I talked about this. Usually when I'm talking about the deaths in the industry at the end of these episodes, I'm talking about old ass motherfuckers, man. And I'm cool with that. I say shit wrong, okay? I'm cool with that because these folks they lived their lives. They passed away at 70, 60, 80. And they did a lot with themselves, and like they passed away. They were old. As I say, they lived long lives. But this one man, T-Dot, who was a rising Brooklyn rapper, he was 22 years old, bro, and he was shot only hours after he signed a deal with $1 Million Records. That is the shit in the industry, the deaths in the industry that really fuck with me and that really get me, because for what? I mean, there's always a what, there's always a reason, but it's like 22. Just literally just that day, a couple hours before, signed a record deal, and now it's all gone for whatever fucking reason that is the reason. Like I said, these deaths and these kind of stories are the shit that gets to me, because what could he have been? What could we have seen? And besides that, the man was 22 years old. For some people that is a lifetime, as we can see in this, but young people passing away for stupid shit is never something that I'm going to be fucking happy about. Point blank period. As I said before, as per usual, I offer, my condolences to everyone. I hope everyone who's connected to these folks has a smooth grieving process and is able to, come out of shit on the other side. But on that note, that is all of the shit that I have to talk about. I'm excited to see how long I fucking spent talking about this. I've got to get ready, go do some things. Quick shout out to Spotlight Orlando, happening tonight. at the Nightshade Lounge. Definitely come through and support Orlando local artists. Support Leo, who is a dope ass motherfucker, who puts all of this shit together. It's always a great time. You got drinks, you got hookah, you got good music. So definitely come through. Come see me. Come see your girl. Say what's up. But on that note, I hope some of y'all are coming in real late, but I hope that you guys enjoy this. As I said before, this will be posted to my IGTV as well as my YouTube. I will have all of the articles for everything that I talked about linked in the description of my YouTube. It will be linked in my bio on Instagram. And, yeah, I don't have anything else to talk about, y'all, so enjoy yourself. And I always love feedback, so, tell me how you feel about the episode, how you feel about this new style of, like, actually being on live instead of doing it pre-recorded. And, yeah, goodbye. Bro, I'm so bad at technology. Goodbye.